What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world according to Briggs. I hope you're doing well. Today we're doing an international video about Europe. There are 750 million people living in 44 different countries that together they call Europe. Europe is right here, in case you've never had a geography or history class. I watched one of those Jay Leno things years back where they asked people things on the street. They asked a bunch of people to name countries in Europe. More than a few thought Australia and New Zealand were in Europe. If you're not sure if they are, they aren't. Don't bother Googling it, I got you covered. The wealth of the different European countries vary widely. The poorest countries of Europe are usually the ones that were affected by the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union paid a lot of these countries bills and supplied them with a lot of food and fuel. Now they're struggling, they have been for some time. We're doing this list on GDP per capita. GDP per capita is a measure of the country's capita output that accounts for its number of people. Basically, if you divide the country's gross domestic product by the total of the population, it gives you a solid measurement of what the country's standard of living is. I know that's a lot of technical nonsense, but what it breaks down to is we're going to check out how poor these countries are. So why don't we take a look and see what countries need a side hustle, starting with number 10, Bulgaria. The GDP per capita of Bulgaria is $9,340 American. Bulgaria is a country located in southeastern Europe on the Black Sea. Bulgaria has sucked forever. When I grew up, we had a good-sized Bulgarian community where I lived that they all seemed to have left during the Soviet Union times. They never seemed happy. I also got the feeling they learned all their English from watching American soap operas. We had a Bulgarian worker at this place I worked at in high school, an auto parts place. You ask him anything, and you got an over-dramatic response. You'd go, "Hey, Orlin, can you count how many cases of oil we got today?" "My name is Orlin. I will count the cases. That is my responsibility." It was always just weird and over the top. I loved Orlin. Bulgaria's economy experienced major setbacks in the 1990s after the loss of the Soviet market. They tried to switch to a democratic government with a free market economy. It destabilized the country even more. Bulgaria fell further behind, I guess you could say. The standard of living in the country reduced by 40%, and they didn't begin a recovery till about 1998. Then the Great Recession came by in 08 and 09, and it got worse. They still haven't fully recovered from that one. 35% of Bulgaria lives in poverty. Number 9, Montenegro. The GDP per capita of Montenegro is $8,750. Montenegro is a southeastern European nation near Kosovo and Albania. And when you say Montenegro, most people think you're talking about a car Mercury made in the 1970s. I assure you, Montenegro is a country and the Montego is a chick magnet, but only if you're rocking a mullet. The Yugoslav War, the decline of industry following the breakup of Yugoslavia, and the loss of UN financial sanctions severely affected the economy of Montenegro. The economy had been on a steady growth cycle for about 10 years, and then of course, like all the other ones, the global recession hit in 2008, and it just hammered this country. 35% of the country live in poverty. Now, the northern section, it's closer to 11%, but it's pretty bad, especially in the southern part. Number 8, Serbia. The GDP per capita of Serbia is $7,243. Serbia is a landlocked nation that borders Bulgaria, Montenegro, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and a few others. I probably don't need to keep saying this, but Serbia's already shaky economy was severely affected by the global economic crisis of 2008. This is a recurring theme in this part of the world. Actually, most other parts of the world kind of pulled out of it, not this area. Serbia isn't really raking it in with any real solid industries, especially not tourism. Has a travel agent ever suggested Serbia for the summer? There's a reason for that. The place sucks. If you do have a travel agent that suggests you visit Serbia, you might want to shop around for a different agent. The poverty rate is only 12% in Serbia, so that's really good news. It could be much worse, but the cost of living is very, very low. Number 7, Belarus. The GDP per capita in Belarus is $6,306 American. Belarus is an Eastern European landlocked nation that is bordered by Poland, Ukraine, and Latvia. It's pretty much the land between Moscow and Warsaw. Almost half the land in Belarus is covered in forest. You'd think they'd have a big timber industry. Not so much. Belarus is ranked 7th among the poorest countries in Europe for a lot of different reasons. Like all the other former Soviet countries, Belarus's economy flatlined after the Soviet Union collapsed. And the way they dealt with the economic crisis would be consistent considered an epic fail. Between 1991 and 1995, the country was in such bad shape that 50% of the population actually lived in poverty. By 2000, they were on a hot streak. Only 41% of the country was living in poverty. Incredibly, they'd gotten it down to 8% by 2008, just before the global economy collapsed. Last time they gave up some real stats was in 2014, and they said they were below 6% poverty. A lot of people consider that a gross exaggeration. Sort of like when I say I have something in common with a ruler. But they have a low cost of living, so maybe. Number 6. North Macedonia. The GDP per capita of North Macedonia stands at $6,100. Not a lot of money. North Macedonia is one of the poorest countries in Europe. The country earned its independence in 1991 when Yugoslavia broke up. Since that time, the country has undergone some serious economic changes. North Macedonia has gradually improved its economy over the years with successful policies implemented by the government. That's all the rainbow and sunshine stuff. Here's the real stuff. In spite of all these reforms, the country has a horribly high unemployment rate of 27.3%. That's of 2016, the last time they had serious numbers. And a high poverty rate. 70% of the country's residents report that they live paycheck to paycheck or are going in debt, or actually, there's a lot of people that, go hunt and fish for their dinner. A lot of people in this country, even the ones living in the city. There is no reason to go here unless you're itching to feel like you own a time machine, because if you go here, you'll feel like you went back in time. Number 5. Bosnia Herzegovina. The GDP per capita of Bosnia Herzegovina is $5,607. Bosnia Herzegovina used to be Yugoslavia. Then they decided to have a war, and it's been a nightmare, even though the war ended almost 20 years ago. The country is bordered by Croatia and Montenegro. It also shares a coastline with the Adriatic Sea, but that doesn't matter because you should never visit this place willingly. Bosnia faces the challenges of rebuilding a war-torn country from 20 years ago and recovering the economy. It is one of the poorest countries in Europe. This was once a great country. They hosted the frickin' Olympics. The political unrest of the 1990s led to a dramatic change in the economy of Bosnia. Though the economy of Bosnia and Herzegovina has gradually recovered, a large trade deficit and really high unemployment, make you wonder if this place will ever survive. 38.7% of the people are unemployed. Number 4. Albania. The GDP per capita of Albania is $5,295. Albania is a Southeast European nation bordered by Kosovo, North Macedonia, Greece, and Montenegro. When I was about 6, my uncle told me this is where all the albinos came from. Isn't that horrible? What's even more horrible is I believed him, and I believed him well past the age I should have believed that. I brought it up in a high school speech class. As it came out of my mouth, I was thinking, hold on a second, that's not true. I'm getting all embarrassed, and everyone starts laughing, and I realized they thought I was joking. So I just played it off as a joke, and it was a win. Albania is one of the poorest countries in Europe. The good news is the economy of this fine country is improving. They have a very long way to go, but it's getting better. No word on the albinos, though. Number 3. Kosovo. The GDP per capita of Kosovo is $4,500. Kosovo ranks 3rd among the poorest countries in Europe. It is a disputed territory and a partially recognized state, meaning Kosovo thinks they're a country. Not a lot of other places think they are. Kosovo was Yugoslavia's poorest province when Yugoslavia was a thing. During the 1990s, a number of dumb moves helped set them back even further, basically destroying an already weak economy. After the 2008 Declaration of Independence, remember when everyone was having that global crisis thing? They decided to make a Declaration of Independence. The economy showed gradual improvement since then, so maybe it was a smart move, but still, the dispute thing acts as a barrier for any quick economic growth. The good news is the country isn't in debt up to their ears like so many other countries in this part of the world. Number 2. Moldova. The GDP per capita in Moldova is $3,218. Moldova is another landlocked nation that is bordered by Ukraine and Romania. This place probably suffered more economic setbacks after the breakup of the USSR than any other country on this list or in that area. Back then, and still now somewhat, Moldova's economy faces many trade obstacles. The major objective of the newly formed Moldovan government was to pull their heads out of their butt and start making some positive changes. The government made some good changes, like removing controls on exports and backed the privatization of lands to achieve economic growth. So I would say their heads are partially out of their butts because it sort of worked. The economy of Moldova has exhibited a steady growth and recovery pattern for the last couple of years. They are still dirt poor, but they're showing signs of life. And number 1. Ukraine. The GDP per capita of Ukraine is $2,963. That's not a lot of money. The Ukraine economy was the second largest in the Soviet Union, and after the USSR fell apart, the independent Ukraine made some major mistakes which plunged a large section of this country into poverty. The economy of Ukraine blows, and the people struggle to live their day-to-day lives here. Corruption, bureaucratic red tape, far too many dirt roads, a public transportation system that makes people consider buying a horse to get back and forth to work help drag Ukraine down. Despite these issues, Ukraine has managed to reduce their absolute poverty, and the poverty rate has decreased from 11.9% in 2000 to 2.3% in 2012, and it's kind of holding fast at 2.3% to this day. Ukraine is the poorest country in Europe. Alright, so that is our list today. Another international video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We haven't given up completely on the United States. We're still going to be doing a lot of videos there. We're just mixing these ones in to kind of spice things up a little bit. Anyway, if you like what we do here, please subscribe, share it on your social media, get people to watch this channel, give it a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.